Hey guys, welcome back again. In this video, we'll be discussing about how to operate Raspberry Pi using Linux. So before that, I want you to catch some intro topics to Linux so that you won't confuse again in between when we are using Linux. So first, when we enter Linux, what do we see? We see some name at the red, another name, and with a semicolon, a dollar symbol, and a blank space, right? So what are those? What is the name before at the rate and what is the name after at the rate? What does it mean? And what are those commands that it is asking to put in? So what are the types of commands? And what is Linux? So Linux is a operating system which is used to manipulate file hierarchy in the system. So Linux is different when compared to Windows, Mac and all other operating systems because it does not give us the traditional user interface for the buttons and display and the traditional interface. So it's kind of old. It does only accept commands and some options with that. First, we'll describe what is the first line that we get when we log into Linux. So the name before at the rate is your username, and when you're setting up your Raspberry Pi for the first time, if you did not watch the video, you can see from the cards on the top. The name before at the rate is your username associated with some password, your custom password, and after the at the rate comes your host name. So it might be Pi or it might be any custom name that you have selected while setting up your Raspberry Pi. It's not only for Raspberry Pi, it can be for any other system also. And followed by that, we'll get the path of where we are working on currently. So if you are working on the desktop, it will be /desktop, or if you are working on downloads, it will be /downloads. So why that slash comes in between the folders when we are working with it? So does that slash really have a meaning? We'll all check that out. And then followed by a command. So that is the command prompt. The blank is the command prompt. It is asking you to put in some command with an option. Like if I want to see the man page of some command, like if I want to know about that command and I only want to know some specific options for that command, like if there's a command called man and I only want to see some commands of that man in its instruction page, I only want one particular section of that command. So instead of searching the whole instruction manual, we'll just type an option followed by command so that we'll only get one particular section with it. I'll tell you how it is useful in further cases. The next one, we'll see why did I mention it about file hierarchy system. So Linux is all about editing, creating and manipulating or extracting the data from the files. You can only play around with files, nothing else. So we'll see how these files make huge difference between the traditional operating systems and the Linux, because the huge role in the operating system is with files and its operations. Okay. So now we'll look at the functions of specific folders located in your Linux operating system. So the main king is the root folder. In the root folder, we have specific kinds of folders for specific users. I'll also mention it users in the future. SBIN, media, bin, etc, home, temporary files, user files, library, var files, and mount files. So in the home files, you can see your username or your custom username what you have given during Raspberry Pi installation. In that you will see your normal OS files, the desktop, downloads, documents, pictures, or any other custom folders that you have created for yourself. Now let's see the meaning of these files in the root folder. So what are these files mean? Does they have any specific meaning, or do they involve in certain functions in the operating system? Even these files exist in your normal operating system, but you can't access them or see them because they are not available for every user. They are locked and they can be seen without entering into Linux. So we'll see what are the users of these files now. The first one is the /bin folder, essential command binaries or executables, and the second one is /boot folder, which holds static files of the boot folder. This folder helps in the booting of the device and stores some of the specific device related to the boot. /dev device files, /etc host specific system configuration files, /library essential shared libraries and kernel modules, /media mount points for removable devices. This removable device can be a pen drive, SD card, or an external HDD or SSD. MNT is for mount points. /opt is for add-on application packages, any package it could be. /run data relevant to running processes. /bin is for essential system binaries. The bin is for command binaries. SBin is for system binaries. /srv is for the data for the services. So it could be for the website like HTTP services or FTTP. /user secondary hierarchy. This user folder also contains bin, sbin, /src, all those. So it has its own hierarchy again. /var is variable data files. So it can consist of log files or device specific files. I'll show you some of the log files also, if possible. Let's move ahead with the functioning of the Linux and how to connect your Linux with your Raspberry Pi. Till now we have seen the basics of Linux, how to operate in Linux, what is the meaning of some specific folders and some specific names in Linux. Now we'll try to connect to Raspberry Pi via Linux. So to do that, we'll use a command called SSH. It is typically used to connect to external host or a PC with wireless network. So if you want to know about some command, let's say I don't know what is SSH and what does it do, I want to find out the instruction page or the description page of that command. Instead of going to the internet and browsing about it, we have some simpler feature in Linux so that we can get to know all the information regarding that particular command. So if you are on Mac OS, just type bash, or if you are on Windows, go to your PowerShell to access Linux from there. Mac OS uses Unix interface, which is slightly different from Linux, but they both overlap in some ways, but not completely. Now we are operating on pure Linux. So let's say man is the command used to find out the instruction manual of that particular command. I have to find out about SSH, right? I'll type man SSH and then click enter. Now you can see the instruction manual or commands manual of that SSH command. So first we'll see its name, synopsis and description, and its options also. So I've already told you what option does for that particular command. It just sorts out the external tasks and then, you know, do some specific kind of task that we are forcing it to do with the help of options. So there are different types of options. You can read all this if you want. There is a description about SSH command. So SSH abbreviates secure shell host, and it is a program for logging into a remote machine and for executing commands on a remote machine. So you need not be connected to that machine or connected to that machine with wire. It could be some kilometers away or in another country, but you can just connect it from here itself using SSH and its username and host name, where the host machine gives you the permission to connect so that you can operate from anywhere else. In the case of Raspberry, we need to make sure that the Raspberry Pi and your local PC is connected to the same internet to connect to the SSH and then operate it through Linux interface. So this is all about SSH. Now to quit this, just type Q and then type exit to exit bash shell. We'll first try to connect to our Raspberry Pi. So this is my username and my host name. Just type enter. So when you type ssh manikanta@pi.local, it will ask for your password. Just type your password. Even when you are typing your password, it may not be visible, but still it captures your password, and then click enter. And now you are connected to the Raspberry Pi. So just type clear to clear everything, so your terminal looks clean for your workspace. And now what you have to do is, now look at these names before the @ and after the @. This is my username and pi is my host name, right? And it's giving me some blank to write a command. Let's write a command. Let's say I want to see what are those contents in my directory, my present working directory. Let's say first let's ask what is my present working directory. Let's type pwd, which stands for present working directory. So I am in /home/manikanta. So go back to the user hierarchy if you have some doubts regarding this. Now let's say if I want to go to home folder, cd home, or I'm here basically, right? If I want to go to the previous folder, not only home. If I am suppose in two folders, I just want to jump back to previous folder. Just type space cd space dot to jump back to the previous folder, right? So now I came from Manikanta to home. Okay, this is a command. Cd is used to enter some specific directory or exit some specific directory. With its options and all, you can exit or enter a specific directory. Fine. Now what we'll do is, we'll go to our specific directory. Let's say cd, we'll enter the user directory, my directory, and I want to see the contents which are there in this directory. So to do that, to list the contents in specific directory, we'll use ls. So let's find what is this ls with this man page. Ls means list directory contents. It will list your contents in your directory. You can read the description, and the options is as follows: -a, -A, -b, -B. All these are options for ls command. And now let's say I need some more detailed descriptions of that contents, like bookshelf, documents, music, publics. I want the date and time of creation, I want to see the permissions given to specific folder, and I want to see the size of this specific folder. To see all those, ls minus l, this minus l is an option for the command ls. Okay, now if you click enter, you'll see some list where it is starting with D and R, W, X, R. You can see the pattern R, W, X, again R space X, again R space X. The pattern is repeating, right? So it is briefing or describing the permissions for three users, three kinds of users. It may be you owner, root, and others. Okay, and it is followed by D. What is the meaning of D? Let's take one more example to differentiate it with one more thing. Let's enter desktop folder, and I have my files in here. Let's list out them. Now see, there is D here and there is nothing here. What does that mean? That means these all files are type of directories. They belong to the type directories, and these files are just regular files. So they have been indicated with a -1 because they are regular files. If you come to the directory files are specified with D in the start. Okay. Now let's say I enter cd my virtual environment command directory, and let's list out what are all those. And I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 contents in this directory. So 5 contents is been showing here. Okay. And it is also showing the root and the user. Right. The owner and the current user who is accessing the directory. And the size of the directory, the date of creation, time of creation, and the directory name. The detailed description of a directory, which is not possible to see in other operating systems like Windows and Mac OS. If you like go to the info of that specific folder, and then if you want to see, you can see all these, but like basically when entering the finder or file explorer, you can just see them right there. If you go into somewhere, then you can see all these. I don't mean you cannot see all this in your original operating systems. You can, but in Linux you can automatically see them just by typing ls-l. So this is how to see the info of your specific directories or files. And now let's see and test some more basic commands in Linux. If I want to read a specific file, we use a command called cat. I am in the directory my virtual environment, right? So let's say I want to read the configuration file. Now by using cat command, I can see the contents of that particular file right there. Let's say you have some colors or some CSS styles in that specific file, then you can use the command batcat. Let's see if I find any difference between cat and batcat. Oh, batcat command is not installed. Fine, you can install it. Okay, for me it's showing some error like unable to locate the package, but if you want to install some command which is not found in your terminal or your operating system, you can just use this template sudo apt install followed by your specific package or command, right? So if you want to, now we'll work on the projects which include Python, so you have to install Python, right? So to install that, just type sudo install, sudo apt install. Don't use pip because pip is externally managed in Raspberry Pi. So just use apt and type Python 3. If you click enter, it will automatically install Python 3, or if Python 3 is already installed, it will show you the newest version that it is already installed. Now if you want to download some specific package in Python 3, just type the command followed by a hyphen and then type your specific package over here. Let's say my specific package is XYZ. I want to download XYZ from Python 3. I don't want to download all the packages. I just want to download XYZ from Python 3. It will download XYZ from Python 3. This is another command to download some specific packages if you want. Now let's say if I search some command, instruction page of that particular command, it will give me a whole bunch of options and descriptions and pages and pages, but I just want to explore some particular options of that particular command. Let's say SSH. If I go to man SSH, I only want these options to be displayed and nothing else. So for that also we have a command, type SSH and help. This will only show the options and particular usages of that SSH command. Got it? What more? Now, after all these basic commands working in Linux, if you want any more basic commands to be explored, just type down in the comment section so that we can discuss this in the Discord channel. I'll also provide the Discord server link in the description below. So let's go back to the user folder. Now let's say I am 3 folders ahead of user folder, I just directly want to jump back to the user folder. So for that also there is a command to jump directly to the user folder. Just type cd and then just type enter. You'll just go back to the user folder. And now let's say I just want to go back, or I just want to go to the particular folder with a path which is there with me. Let's say I want to go to user folder. In that I want to search for log files. Fine. Let's say you see cd user log path I already have with me, and cd is used to go to that particular folder. Cd followed by your path will take you to that particular folder. Okay. Next, let's see how can we work Python codes in this Linux terminal. Now I'll show you some of my codes which have already been written. These are some projects we'll be working on in the future. Let's say now I'll open nano hello world. What is this nano command? Nano is one of the editors used to edit a file, write a file, or edit the contents of the file. If you want more description about nano, just type man nano. You will see the description and its options over here. You can pause the video and you can go through this manual page, or you can type this command in your terminal and then go through the manual page of this. It's one of the editors to edit files. Okay. So this is a code which is written in Python language. So how does this file know, this nano know that it is a Python language? So because I have written the file extension as .py, so it automatically recognizes that I am writing a Python file and editing it. Nano version is 7.2, which is the latest one I am working on. And now let's say I want to write some code where I'll basically write in a compiler. We write similar to that, but we don't find AI suggestions or compiler suggestions which give me an error. Like if I miss the semicolon there, it will just remove the colors but does not show me an error like red underline in the below the sentence. It I won't get all those options, but the color coding will be gone. So you can identify from that. Now how to run this Python file? So first write the code and then save the file, press Ctrl X and then press Y to save the modified buffer and then click enter. If you creating a file new, then you can write your file name here, file name to write and then click enter. Now you are out of nano editor. Now to run that particular file, we have to mention which package through we are running that file. Now I am using Python 3 package to run the specific file. Now click enter, the file will be executed. The Python code will be executed, right? Now the compiler gives me an error if I made some typos or some indentation errors in the Python file. Now my question is, does Linux do the same? Let's test it. Let's say I miss a colon here and then save the file, go back, open this Python 3 hello world, execute it. Now see, it will return and throw back the same kind of error, that is saying syntax error and also showing where it is. So I did not open this and closed it. I closed it but I did not open it here. So it's the same as compiler, but instead of using that all user interface thing and having a run button over here, instead of all that we just execute the commands, write commands and then edit the files right here. That's why I said Linux is all about file hierarchy system. You manage with files all the time. You don't get all those buttons, animations, AI suggestions and all in Linux. It'll be all about file management system. So basically you want to glow an LED up. Let's say I'll pick up the LED folder. Let's open led.py. Okay, this is the basic code that we have worked on to turn an LED on. You have used Thorny IDE to run this code, to execute this code, and then you have glown an LED before, right? So we can do the same from Linux itself. Just write the code, save in a particular folder, and then save the code and then execute it with Python 3 package. It will glow the LED if it is connected to LED, right? If you want to exit the program, just click Ctrl C. It will interrupt the program and it will end the program. In the compiler we used to click stop, which is situated on the top of the page. Now we'll click Ctrl C. It's just difference in the commands and buttons. Linux is all about commands, whereas the normal traditional OS will give you some interface to interfere with the hardware and the software. Okay, now here we'll be working with raw files, raw codes and all, but in the traditional OS we'll be having spoon fed buttons, animations, interface, everything will be spoon fed. We just have to figure it out, where are those options and all. Here we'll write the commands for particular task. So this is how we operate Raspberry Pi 5 using Linux shell, and we'll also work some more projects using this Linux itself, because we have to get to know Linux a bit more and work with Linux, because Linux is so useful when you are working with embedded systems, embedded chips, and when you are programming some chips. Linux is so useful. You also have some operating systems which are named after Linux: Arc, Ubuntu, Debian, Kali. There are These are designed for executing some particular task which is based on Linux itself. Suppose when you take Kali, it is basically used for hacking or getting into some backdoors of some IP address, right? They all work on Linux but designed for some other particular task, but they all work on Linux itself. So you need to get to know about this Linux very well in order to work with Raspberry Pi 5 or any another microcontroller. So I hope you found this video useful, and don't forget to click that subscribe button and the bell icon. We'll meet in the next video with top 5 projects of Raspberry Pi 5 tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Until then, signing off.